So again, okay, wait a minute, let me click that. These are our layered prevention strategies. Mr. Thomason, can you go to the next page? Let's talk a little bit more about what it looks like in the cafeteria, and we will have some more detailed information as we talk. So in the cafeteria, masks are required when students are not actively eating and drinking. Again, we are trying to use our physical distancing as much as possible. And right now we have about 3 feet between each of our students in the cafeteria. We are also having a seating chart. So all of our classes will have a seating chart of where students are supposed to sit in the cafeteria. Students will sit in those spaces every single time they come to the cafeteria. Can we go to the next slide? So these are our mask guidelines. Now, as you can see here, we have that middle section is for fully vaccinated individuals. And then the section closer to the right or further to the right is for individuals who are not fully vaccinated. Now, inside FCPS buildings and buses, everyone needs to be masked, whether you're fully vaccinated or not. Outside, however, if you are fully vaccinated and you are on FCPS property, you do not have to wear your mask. If you are not fully vaccinated, you do have to wear your mask. And so this is going to be a visual that we'll have around our building. And I will tell you that this has been updated as of 2 weeks ago, and maybe even sooner than that. But we want every child to wear their mask unless they have a mask exemption. Can you go to the next slide, please? There was some question about, hey, what's going to happen if FCPS has to close or if we have to quarantine a student? So here you can see this is a lot of verbiage, but pretty much the kind of the Cliff Note version is if it's an individual student who needs to be quarantined or isolated, this will be determined by the healthcare provider, not anyone at school. And the healthcare, the FCPS will, and the health department will do the contact tracing as implemented as a part of their public health. And then the class will remain open for other students. So if that one student is found COVID positive, we will quarantine that one student. Now you might wonder, so what is that one student going to be doing when they're at home? They will be working on work packets and or doing asynchronous work using the Schoology system. So they will go home and they will use the Schoology system or do some other asynchronous work. If it's a class, if by chance we have to close down a class, that will also be designated by the local health department. FCPS will be directed by the local health department to close down that class. And of course, contact tracing will be done. And then what will happen to students? All the students and staff in that class will transition to virtual learning for that class until we can reopen it. And that virtual learning will look similar to Schoology. If by chance our school has to shut down or be quarantined, again, that will be designated by local and state health officials. We'll get that information from them. Contact tracing will be done. And again, what will students do during this closure? Students and the staff will transition to virtual learning to ensure the continuity of learning until in-person instruction can resume. And then quite frankly, I really don't want to go to that last section, so I'm going to leave that for your leisure reading. But just know that regardless of whether your student is a general ed student or a special ed student, if they need to quarantine, they will transition home and they will do asynchronous work or they'll work virtually on Schoology. Okay. Now, before we go to the next slide, I would like to introduce our public health nurse, Mr. Yared Tafis. Mr. Tafis, is there any other information you would like to share with our families? You can turn on your mic and you have access.
Hi. I think this specific page kind of covers how it generally goes, even though sometimes, depending on the situation, it could be specifically tied to that specific student. There isn't much I would add to this part of the presentation, but maybe, I don't know, a little bit later, I may have some things that I could add when it comes to specifically with the health room, how it's run, and what we do, so that parents could have a better understanding. Not much has changed from last time, but I would just like to just go over some of the major important points.
Well, if you wouldn't mind doing that now, because I know you have limited
Sure.
time with us, and I want to make sure that you have an opportunity to share with our parents.
Sure. So what I'm looking at right now is three different phases or three different ways we look at each student's health condition. We mostly depend on the health information form that we receive every year at the beginning of every year to determine whether that student, if, for example, that student is experiencing some kind of health condition in that class, we determine based on that, is that child, does that child have a pre-existing health condition? And we look at that information in the system and to see, if it's, for example, seasonal allergy, which is somehow close to the COVID-like symptoms, then based on that, we determine how to act. So there are some things that can be taken care of in the classroom, and there are some things that can be taken care of in the health room, which is a general sick and injured care that we provide to students. And there are other issues that taken care of and looked at in a different setting, or what we call the care room, where students who are experiencing COVID-like symptoms will be directed to, and they will be supervised, and their symptoms will be looked at. In the meantime, also parents will be notified.
Can you hold on a minute? Parents,
Sure.
if you all would please mute, because we know all of our parents would like to hear what our public health nurse is sharing with us. If everyone else would mute, please. Thank you. All right, I'm sorry, Steve Yard, please continue.
Okay, so yes, so the last part I was mentioning was the isolation room, or what we call the care room, where suspected cases of COVID are looked at closely. A person or a staff will always be there with the students, who exhibit these symptoms. These symptoms are pretty much something new that the student has never experienced before, or based on the information we have received at the beginning, like I said, on the health information form. If they are different from what the student is experiencing, these are the things that we look at closely. For example, a new kind of stomach ache, nausea or vomiting, that's something that we want to look at, or sore throat, or a new feeling of feverishness, or any temperature that is more than 100.4. That is something that we look at closely for COVID-like, because it represents a few of the COVID-like symptoms. So this is the three phase of phase we look at each individual, each child's health condition. So we move based on that, and if we suspect that these new symptoms are somehow consistent with the COVID-like symptoms, like we did in the past, we would contact parents, so that the kids will be picked up, and based on that, based on the recommendations of the health department, further actions will be taken. So this is what I have to add. I can go over the list. Maybe you have this paper already, but I just want to make sure that all of us are aware. For example, feeling feverish or chills, fever greater than 100.4 degrees, headache, which is not due to another health condition, hunger, stress, or injury, a new cough, not due to another health condition, shortness of breath or breathing difficulties not due to diagnosed respiratory conditions, or if different than normal pattern of chronic condition. Like I said, the health information form is very useful in this regard, because we have to look at that and see if it's a new one or a pre-existing health condition. A new sore throat, not due to another health condition. Congestion or runny nose, not related to allergies or other health conditions. New muscle pain, not due to another health condition or may have been caused by specific activities such as physical education. New loss or taste, smell, or appetite. Abdominal pain, not due to hunger, constipation, injury, or stress. Nausea, vomiting, or diarrhea, not associated with a chronic gastrointestinal condition. So these are the things that we're looking at to determine this is a COVID-like symptom or not. So based on that, we take actions. And of course, the usual care and injured care that we provide will continue. That's what I have to add. I have my supervisor here, Christy Vitter. Maybe if she wants to add something to this, let her do that.
Yes, please do. And I would like to follow up with a question. Ms. Vitter, did you have anything that you would like to add?
I would absolutely, thank you. I would just like to add our plea that every day you are doing that symptom checklist before you send your child to school. If your child is sick, if they're having symptoms, please keep them home until they're feeling better, until we can find out what's going on. And if you do have a child who becomes ill during the school day, it would be really great if you could pick them up within an hour from when the health room calls you and asks to have them picked up. Mm-hmm. And finally, if we do end up in a situation where we have to do some sort of contact tracing, it's really helpful if you answer the phone and talk to our contact tracers, because the sooner we can speak to everyone who's potentially involved, the sooner we can close the investigation and start moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. And then if I may ask, because our parents did submit some questions ahead of time, and so I just wanted to get some clarity around this for our parent. And the question is, what will the process be if there is an exposure? And I think we've answered that part already. And if the student exposed has a sibling, will the sibling also be required to quarantine? If you could help us with that.
So what I can say regarding this question is, for example, let's say we can look at it from 2 points of view. One is if a sibling is diagnosed, or if a sibling is symptomatic in the school, and we determine that this is consistent, the symptoms are consistent with COVID-like symptoms, and we send that child to the home, we determine that the other sibling who is not symptomatic at that moment and who's at the school can remain in the school and finish school. But if, for example, it was determined that one of the siblings was tested positive at home, and because they are living in the same home and they are of the same household, the other sibling is also expected to quarantine for 14 days. That's what my understanding of the guidelines. And Christy, she can add. You can add if you think is.
Nope, I think you covered it well.
All right, thank you so much. I really do appreciate your time and sharing with our parents, because I know that you have a limited time, and so I just really wanted to get you in first and foremost before you have to leave. Thank you so much. So parents,
Dr. Simpkins, can I join in? This is Tim, Ms. Thompson. We did have a parent that sent a question and wanted to know if it is okay for students to wear the shield and no mask, just the shield.
They cannot wear a shield and no mask. They must have a mask on.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so parents, now that we've kind of, we've talked a little bit about the safety protocols and things that we're doing, we're certainly continuing to sanitize throughout Silverbrook on a consistent basis. Certainly everyone at our school, our teachers now, although we don't have students in school, our teachers are still required to wear their masks throughout the day. We are certainly washing our hands and being careful. We are using distance as we can. Now, certainly we're in meetings throughout the day, and so we may be, a little bit closer to each other than 3 feet, but we are being cognizant of what we are doing. And so we are really, really excited and just just thrilled to have our kids back in school, and we're looking forward to it. So now we're going to move to the next slide, please. And this, we're going to just kind of get into some back to school information, because this is what we are all about. And parents, we know that, this has been a really, really hard time for all of us, and we want our kids back in school. We want school as normal. But what I want to just caution right now, and then just say, school will be as normal as we can make it for right now. It's not going to be the same school that we had pre-COVID. I mean, there are going to be some things that are different, but we're working really, really hard to just make things great for our kids. Starting with our bell schedule. We are going to be back at our regular bell schedule that we had pre-COVID. As you remember, we were, our first bell rang at 8:40, and that it indicates that our students can come in. They can pick up their breakfast and go to class. We will have breakfast and lunch every day free of charge for all of our students who need it. We are asking that parents not drop off students before 8:40. We won't have anyone outside until that time. So please do not drop your children off before 8:40. I also want to remind you that we now have a PAC program. And so our PAC children have a little slightly different schedule on Mondays and Wednesdays. They will be dismissed at 12:10. And then all of our students will be dismissed at 3:35. We will start dismissal with our patrols, who will go out and get to their posts. We will follow by our walkers and our kiss and ride and band students. And our kiss and ride students will go to the cafeteria, and to the gym. They will be seated there on the floor as normal, and they will wait for their number to be called. We're still using the number system that we used last year. For those new parents who are new to Silverbrook, we will issue a number to you. Parents who had a number last year, you're still going to have the same number this year, but it's going to be on a different color cardstock, okay? Our walkers will walk out of door 1, and that's what our dismissal will look like. Buses will be, our SAC students will be the next students who will go down to the SAC room, and then buses will be called by number. And then, of course, they'll go out door 1. So let's go to the next slide. Our students have experienced, some of the words that come to my mind when I think of the last 18 months that we've experienced is trauma, depression, anxiousness, loneliness, isolation. But some of the other words that come to me, time with family, gardening, reading books together, board games, and talking. But we know that depending on the home you lived in, will really depend on what this past year and a half has been for you. It's been traumatic for all of us, but for some of our students, it has been more traumatic than for others. So as we welcome our children back to school, we're really going to be focusing on the social and emotional health and wellness of our students. We will not start instruction right away, because what we want to do is to make sure that our kids are feeling good. We're going to affirm our students. We're going to build relationships with them. They're going to teach them the routines and procedures so that they can feel safe. Our students will write goals. And we have a team of clinical team at Silverbrook who will be there to support our students. Ms. Pangolian and Mr. Eisner, who are our counselors, Mr. Borsa, who is our psychologist, and Kim Whalen, who is our social worker. They are all there to support our kids. Our children will be receiving lessons from our counselors in the area of mindfulness and growth mindset. They're going to be talking about bullying. They'll be talking about diversity and inclusion, kindness, and perseverance, just to name a few of the things. One of the other programs we're going to be having or continuing to have at Silverbrook will be our Mentors Work program, where teachers will mentor particular students across our school. And you know what? We have like a really, really big ticket item that we will be implementing every single day to support our kids. Now, I want you to look at the graphic here And what it says is, in teaching, you can't bloom stuff until you take care of the Maslow stuff. We always talk about Maslow before blooms, taking care of the basic needs of our kids before we can have them sit down and instruct them, because kids can't learn if they're overstressed. And so we want our kids to feel really, really good about being in school. We want to make sure that they're healthy and well, and we need your input, parents, to help us if there's something that we might be missing. Tell us and communicate to us about how your kid is feeling about being in school. But one of the big ticket items that we have that is very, very crucial, that supports our social emotional wellness and health, is morning meetings. If you go to the next slide. Morning meeting will happen in every class, and it'll be about 20, 30 minutes every day. In morning meeting, our teachers will provide a greeting, a share, an activity, and then it will follow with a morning message. Now, I will tell you that as our teachers came back to school, you know what? We said we're going to model what we want teachers to do in class for kids. So as we started our year, we started with a greeting. We wanted our new to Silverbrook teachers know that we wanted them here, that they belonged here. And we celebrated them as each one of them walked in, and we told our staff a little bit of information about them. They were applauded and they felt good about being at Silverbrook. And after we greeted everyone, then we had a share. We had a share time of each person talking about their why, their story about why we do this important work, what keeps us going, what keeps us coming to Silverbrook every day. And it's the 792 kids that we have in our building, but it's other things too. So I shared my why, Mr. Thomason shared his why, and then we gave teachers an opportunity to share their why. So everyone in our building had an opportunity to share. And as you can see, the picture of our two teachers up here, they're sharing their story. You can see that they are a distance apart. You can see that they're wearing their masks. And this is what we're going to teach our children to do as they come to school, keeping their distance, wearing their mask. Okay. So the other thing that we did was we had a mindfulness activity. Our resource teacher, Miss Berry, shared a mindfulness activity that our teachers can use in the classroom with our kids, because it was just like a breathing activity using their 5 fingers in and out. So the bonus of the morning that we were together was just the fun, the absolute fun we had with our staff. Mr. Thomason, as you can see him down here playing his guitar, serenading us. We had the balls, the beach balls. We were just throwing them around, just having a great time. Teachers having a great time. But guess what? This is exactly what we need teachers to do for kids when our kids come back to school. And we wanted to model that for them. It's not about let's get down and start writing and doing math. It's about building the social structures. It's about building community first so our kids can feel great about being in school. So let's go to the next slide. And we had a great time. So I was really, really proud to see, we do have some teachers who are co-teaching this year, and we had their retreat this week also. And I was just really, really pleased to see that one of our teachers, who is brand new to Silverbrook, has already taken hold of our theme for the year. She and her partner, Ms. Takis and Ms. DeStefano, are co-teaching this year, and both of them had our theme on their vision board for the year. Every child, every day. And that meant to me that these ladies are committed to the work that we're doing for kids. We enjoy our children here at Silverbrook, and it really does show. Can we go to the next slide? So here we are, just as a little wrap up for this part: relationships before rigor, grace before grades, patience before programs, and love before lessons. We want each and every one of our kids to feel, see, and hear this every single day. So you might be asking, how are you going to make all this happen, Dr. Simpkins? Come on, it can't be that great. I'm going to tell you, it is that great. It is that great, and it's going to be that great because we're going to have a great year. Can you go to the next slide? We have established 3 priorities at Silverbrook: strong Tier 1 instruction, a caring culture, cultural awareness, responsiveness, and equitable practices. Can you go to the next slide? Under Tier 1 instruction, this is our what, why, and how we're going to get this done. We're going to provide rigorous and relevant Tier 1 instruction for all students, because all students should have access to a guaranteed and viable curriculum. And then we're going to do that through our CLT implementation, our workshop model in reading and math, and intentional intervention and enrichment. Now, let me go back, parents, and say to you that we have been working in our CLTs. You need to mute your mic, please. Our team leaders have been meeting since last school year, once a month, building their skills in leadership. And that's because the CLT is the most important meeting that teachers have, where we decide on what we're going to be teaching kids. What do we want students to learn, understand, and be able to do? What are we going to do for those kids who don't have it? What are we going to do for those kids who have it? And how do we know that our children have it? So we're going to continue with our workshop model in reading and math. And I do want you to know that we will be, our FCPS is pushing the phonemic awareness and phonics this year. And so our teachers really delved into that today. So let's continue to go. Caring culture is next. So what, why, and how we will provide social emotional support to all of our students, creating a sense of belonging, safety, and inclusion. Until our kids feel all of this and know this for sure, we're not going to get to the learning. So that's going to be important. And why are we doing this? Because Maslow's hierarchy of needs state individuals require a sense of safety, belonging, esteem, and self-actualization. Remember, I said Maslow before Bloom's, right? All right, and then how are we going to do this? Because we have Positivity Project and Responsive Classroom, we're using that. We're going to have scheduled lessons with our counselors that I just talked about a few minutes ago. We're going to create small groups with our psychologists for students who need it. We're going to discuss students by class, name, and need. And I have mentioned this constantly. We need to talk about every child, and more especially as we're bringing our children back during this time. And then we're going to create a safe space for discussions. We've created a safe space for staff discussions that we started in the last year. And we're also going to create safe space for student discussions. Can we go on to the next one? And then our final priority is cultural awareness, responsiveness, and equitable practices. The what, why, and how of that is, we will work towards eliminating gaps in opportunity, access, and achievement for students. Why are we doing this? Because we will nurture a community of tolerance, belonging, and appreciation of cultures and traditions where all can feel valued and affirmed. Again, it's about how our kids feel. It's about affirming our children every single day. And then how will we do this? We're going to include equity questions in our CLT agenda and lessons. And I'm proud to say that our team leaders had their retreat on yesterday. And one of the things we looked at was our CLT agenda and how we're going to revise that. We're going to discuss disaggregated data and create a plan of action so that we can have specific times for intervention and enrichment every single day for our children. And again, we're going to create safe spaces for staff and students discussion. Under each of these priorities, I want you to know that we are delving into teachers as readers. And we actually started a little bit of that today too. So please know that we are working hard to make sure that when our kids come back, first things first, we're going to make sure that we're getting to that social emotional learning, building community with them, and letting them know that they're loved and belong. And Silverbrook. So now we're going to turn I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Thomason, who's going to go down into kind of the nuts and bolts and a little bit more information about the processes we're going to have with kids.
Thank you, Dr. Simpkins, and thank you, parents and families. The next few slides are I'm going to go over what students are going to be doing as they return in the first week, and also some of the mitigating strategies that we have in place throughout the year. So, and they'll be different. On the first week of school, students will arrive, and we have procedures from that. We're still working on those, and still, and even tomorrow we'll be fine tuning some changes with it. But I just wanted to share when students first arrive on Monday, they're going to meet teachers in various spaces inside and outside of the building. Students who arrive at Kiss and Ride are going to come into the gym, and they're going to sit for a few minutes on the floor until they're gathered by their classroom teacher. And then bus walker and students will meet teachers in their designated spots, which are next. I'll show you in those spots we've got for first grade, kindergarten, second and third. First grade is going to be gathering on the first day in front of the cafeteria in that grassy area. In kindergarten, kindergartners will be right out in front of the front doors. Second grade is in front of the SAC area to the right of the building. And third grade will go into the cafeteria and wait there for a few minutes. Fourth grade will be in the lobby and sit down in the lobby. And fifth and sixth grade, our older students will just go directly to their classrooms. And we will have signs and signs and signs to point everybody where they need to go. We'll have signs out for our open house tomorrow. We'll have signs for our first day. They look great, and they will definitely point the kids in the right direction. So what we ask is, in the abundance of caution, we're asking parents if you could remain outside. Now, this really does, I believe, apply mostly to our kindergarten families. Most first through sixth grade, in my experience, you all let them go, and no turning back. And especially now, I'm sure many of you are ready to have your kids back at school. And I know I am. So, but for kindergarten students, in the past, we've had you could come into the classrooms and take pictures and say goodbyes, but we're going to have you do that outside in that area in front of the school. And so if you could do that for us, we really are trying to limit the amount, we will continue to do that, limit the amount of people, parents, all of it inside our building. So we're going to have to if you can take care of those kind of things, and then we'll all go in together. All our kindergarten teachers will bring in the kindergartners and start our day. Another thing to share with you is just breakfast. And what I can tell you about breakfast is that first thing is that every student who needs breakfast or needs lunch will have the opportunity to do so. Third grade will be the first to kind of go through the lines, since they're already going to be already in the cafeteria, followed by our fourth graders in the lobby. Our fifth and sixth grade will come down. Those who are getting breakfast, they'll be escorted down to get breakfast. And then we'll have our teachers and IAs bring our first and second grade students, kindergartners, to help them out. That is the part that we're still thinking through what's the best way, the most efficient way to take care of that. But as Dr. Simpkins said, instruction comes second. We want to get everybody fed and feeling good and feeling ready for school, and we can wait on the instruction. So parents, I want you to know that your child will have a free breakfast and a free lunch, which is the next slide. Actually, I'm going to go one more, and I'll come back to the other one. So for lunch, households not going to be required to submit a meal application form to receive meals at no charge. However, there are other benefits that may be connected to eligibility. So if you receive those kind of benefits, you still need to go through the process of going through free and reduced lunch, and the applications are available online. But just to repeat, every child can have a free breakfast and a free free lunch up through December of this year. That's the plan for now. So if you all know how to go into your My School Bucks, we'll have this. There's a link here that you can click on if you need to put some extra money on your account, because a la carte items, that if students are getting a la carte items, that will come off the card. And so you're going to need to add money to that to make sure that they're able to do so.
Mr.
Food nutrition
Thomason, can I
service.
make one correction? Can I make one correction, Mr. Thomason?
Mhm.
Because you mentioned that the meals would be free through December 31st. They'll actually be free all year long, but the meals will be no cost. However, if you need the free reduced meals form completed, you should have that done by December 31st, because some of our families might need or are involved in other activities where they can use their free and reduced status to get those items for themselves.
So you're going to want to fill that application as soon as possible, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So and then just if you are wanting to know what's on the menu, it is on the main site. You can go to the main FCPS main site. At the top bar, you'll see lunch menus. And when you click on that is the NutriSlice. It'll take you to NutriSlice. Click on it and you can see the menus for the week. So let me go back to lunch procedures. Okay. So just want to go through some things with you about lunch, because the cafeteria is, we are going to have, a volume of students that are eating lunch at the same time, and they will be eating their lunch without masks. And I know that's a concern for many of you out there, but I want you to know that we are still following the layered prevention strategies, and really the planning that's been involved with that is to maximize the space between each child to the largest possible extent that we can. And so Stephanie Dagley, our PE teacher, and I have worked and reworked the lunch schedule to accommodate that and make sure that that's possible, because that's really, we're going to be, our strategy is through distance. And I want all of you, parents, family, to know that we do have at least 3 feet of distance between each student. They can eat across from each other. They're not directly across from each other. They are, and at that, there's more than 3 feet of distance across the table at that point. So, so there's increased spacing. They still will wear their masks through the serving line. They'll still wash their hands before and after lunch. They're reminded to replace their masks when not actively eating and drinking. So when they're done eating and drinking, we have monitors that'll go around ensuring that students do put their masks back on. And so again, and some other things that we were able to figure out to reduce the capacity was that we have some available seating outside for classes that will be on a rotating basis. So that will further reduce the amount of students in the cafeteria at any given time. Also, the logistics themselves and working through the cafeteria schedule, I mean, it's from 11:50 all the way to 1:30. And so the logistics, when I mean the logistics, Peter can't sit down until Frank gets up 30 minutes before. So that sometimes makes us have to space the classes out even further. So there will be times when there'll be grades that we will not be at full capacity, but that's good news, because there'll be less kids in the cafeteria at that time. So those kind of things will help limit the amount of students at any given time, and that's where we are with for lunch, in our capacity for working on
Mr. Thomas, can I
Mhm.
just interject something, because I
Sure.
think you said lunch 11:50. Lunch starts at 10:50.
Oh, I'm sorry, 10:50. Yeah, from 10:50 all the way to 1. Right. I'm sorry. So it starts that early, and so the reason it has to be that long is that we can handle the spacing requirements that are needed for at least 3 feet. So that it's at a minimum of 3 feet distance between students. They are putting their masks back on as soon as they're finished, and we will try to get them, out and on to their day as soon as we can for that. So I'll go to the next slide.
Can I interject something, Mr. Thomason? Parents, we know that this is, as Mr. Thomason mentioned, we know that this is a something that just pulls at your heartstrings. We know that, and we are doing our absolute best to make sure that your children are safe while they're in school. Please know that, and please just give us some grace. Allow us to do the work that we do. We need your help with this. We cannot do this alone. We need you to send your children healthy every single day. We want them in school, but we want them in school healthy. We need to keep our kids healthy, and we need to keep our staff healthy. So please know we are doing everything we can. Now, I do know that some of you, we were supposed to get a tent. Our tent has not arrived yet. So you might be wondering, well, where are they going to eat? We do have a beautiful courtyard. And so we will be taking our classes on their rotations. We're rotating our students so that all of our students have an opportunity to eat outside in the fresh air. All of our students will be on a rotation for a week to have lunch outside. And so we have our staff members who will pick them up from the cafeteria and take them to the courtyard. And they will be supervised in the courtyard for that 30 minutes for their lunch. And then they will be picked up by their teacher. But please remember, we have your children's best interests at heart all the time. Sorry for interrupting, Mr. Thomason.
Sounds good, but I'm make sure I hit the right button to get to the, okay. So now I want to talk a little bit about laptops. Laptops have been, are ready to go, really. We have Richard Chen, our technology specialist, and Tammy Thompson, our SBITs have been working really hard and we really do appreciate all of you for helping, return the laptops this summer. They're re-imaged and they're ready to go. So I just want just some things to keep in mind about this year with laptops. For PAC students, laptops will stay at home. Kindergarten through second grade will leave the laptops at school, and grades 3 through 6 will take the laptops home daily and charge nightly for the next school day. So K through 2 students, keep them at school. 3 through 6 back and forth. And so I think that's all that I can say about that one. All right, so the next slide is about our assessment. We have some news for the 21-22 year. We have some changes, and that's what I'm going to go over. We've got, first of all, when the kids come back, some of our students, our English learners, are going to be taking the WIDA screener for kindergarten. We have a new ESOL teacher who's excited to meet these students, and one of the first things we're going to do is have her do a screener to determine their English proficiency. Kindergarten PALS is going to replace the iReady reading test. It's also a screener, and just seeing where our kids are in kindergarten in their reading proficiency. Also grades 1 through 6, the students will be taking the iReady and the universal screener. I know many of you are familiar with that. There's a long window for that, September 8th all the way through October 29th. But we will most likely try to start that within the first 2 weeks of school and check that one so we can determine who might need some intervention or remediation help. And then a new one is the Fall Virginia Growth Assessment, which is similar to an SOL test. It's an online test for grades 3 through 6. So we're not calling it a fall SOL, but it's definitely planned and implemented that way. It's definitely online. September 21st and 22nd, we'll have 21st will be 3rd and 4th reading, and 22nd, 5th and 6th. And then the following week on the 28th, well, 3rd and 4th math, and the 29th, 5th and 6th. So it's a less questions. That's but we are still we'll be in the planning stages of that very soon, and students will be taking that in their rooms. So really, it's measuring any of the things that from last year. So if you have a 5th grade student, it would be measuring 4th grade content, and we're trying to determine what content we still do need to cover during this year, and that's the purpose of it. And then COGAT, this year, for the first time, the COGAT is online for students. And also grades 2 and grades 3 will be taken. Last year, for any families with third grade students, they did not take the COGAT. So we're looking to capture them in this year, and they are taking it online. And so also for grades 4 through 6, if we do not have a COGAT on file. Another thing to note is that we have a new policy about not testing on religious or culture observance days. There's 15 days. This is a county initiative or a county mandate, and there are 15 dates that not only can we not test division tests, but also even unit tests. So your math test cannot be on that observance day as well. And also, if the following day, if a teacher is going to give a test the day after one of the observance days, they'll need to notify you at least a week in advance that testing will occur on that day after the observance day. So facilities, just want to go over some things that the county has put in place to address the concerns of going 5 days a week. And one of the things I can share with you is that the filters have gone from what's called a MERV 8, which is 90% effective at controlling particles from 3 to 10 micrometers in size, all to a MERV 13 through 16. Actually, it's a MERV 13, which is effective at controlling airborne bacteria, tobacco, smoke, and I'm just reading that so you can see just how much it's taking out, something that's that fine. And then pollutants released through sneezing. So these filters that are in all the buildings throughout Fairfax County, we've increased the capacity of our filters. All the FCPS schools are designed to ventilate fresh air, which when we can open our windows and provide fresh air, that's great, and that's encouraged when we can do so, but only if it's safe to do so. And when I say safe, I'm talking about students that might have allergies to things from outside. Knowing that the way we have our filtration system in the schools, it's drawing air from outside and then filtering that air. So those are just some of the things that we have implemented over the past several months to ensure that our facilities are doing what we're doing, everything we can to filter out and make sure that everything is safe as possible in our schools. And the final slide that I'm going to talk about is just this facilities, and you'll see this tomorrow, but you can learn more about all of the things that we're doing in Fairfax County. But with these links, you can find more information. So when you see this tomorrow, please feel free to click on any of these links to learn more about what we're doing in our facilities.
Thank you, Mr. Thomason. And families, we will provide these slides to you so that you can have those links, because those links are active. And so we know that, we've received questions about parents being able to come into the building and being able to volunteer and being able to have lunch with their students. And we know that you want to do this. And guess what? We want you to do it too, but not right now. And mom and dad, we really need your help. So our priority really is to get the year started. We do need to teach the routines and procedures to our children, and additional people in the building adds to the complexities of contact tracing with a limiting exposure. So with really the abundance of caution, we want to limit the number of people in the building at this time, and we look forward to inviting volunteers in the future. If you would like to volunteer on a regular basis, you will need to be fingerprinted and badged. And so there is a link here, and here's a regulation in reference to that. So if you want to, come in to volunteer on a regular basis, you do need to be badged. And then, of course, when you come into our building, you do need to be masked. You do need to sign in, and you do need to, certainly we're going to abide by the rules. So please know that we invite you, we want you, but just not right now. We really just want to be able to get the kids in and teach the routines and procedures, get them acclimated back to school, get them feeling good about where they are, and safe, because some of our kids may be feeling some trepidation about coming to school. And so we want to be able to do that, and it's best for us to do that without having additional people in the building. And then, quite frankly, from my perspective, we don't know, because there was a question like, will we know if our teachers are vaccinated or not? And no, that's not information that I can give you, just like I don't know if you're vaccinated or not. And so we do want to limit the amount of people coming into the building right now. We will definitely revisit this in the future. And as things get better, our hope is that by spring, we can open things up and do a little bit more. But please, please, please know that we're not trying to be mean. We're not trying to keep you out. We're just trying to keep our kids and our staff safe. So we're just asking your indulgence for a little while longer. There will be an opportunity where all of this can happen, but school just won't happen the way we're used to it happening right now, okay? Just hold on, mom and dad. All right, the next slide. Just want to give you some updates on things within our school. We do now have a space designated as a prayer room for any of our students who might need it and staff who might need it. And then we have an all gender neutral, I would rather say gender neutral bathroom that is designated for students who need that and for staff who need that. So we wanted to make sure that you had that information. And so before we move any further, I would like to respond to the questions that were submitted. And there were quite a few. And so as far as we talked about lunch, we didn't really talk about snack, but the question was about snack and lunchtime protocols while the kids have their mask off. Will face shields be provided by the school? We have a few face shields. I will suggest that if you would like your child to wear a face shield, that you purchase one for your child. We do have a few in school, and we're ordering some additional face shields. But if you want your child to have a shield as of Monday, please, purchase one. If you can't find one, then we again have some, but the ones that we have at school are kind of the adult size, and we're waiting for our children's size shields to come in. So the extra layer of protection that you can do while your child is having lunch in the cafeteria, if it'll make you feel better and help you feel better, they can wear that face shield and eat their lunch. But again, as soon as they finish lunch, they're putting their masks back on. They can continue to wear their face shield, but they definitely have to have their masks back on. I've answered the question about the vaccination policy. Hand washing will be done several times a day within the class. We have asked teachers to put together a hand washing schedule in their classroom. And then of course their hands will be clean before and after lunch. We answer the questions about the quarantine. We talked about lunch. We talked about the air ventilation. There was a question about that. And then there was another question. Why do all the districts around us offer virtual to those parents who want them? However, only the ones who have the option are high-risk students in FCPS. That is a FCPS question. That's not a question that I can answer. So if you would like to have more information on that, you can possibly email our region or email Dr. Braybrand to get more specific questions, to get your answers for that particular question. Will students continue to use computers at school? And if so, approximately how much time will students spend? Yeah, they will continue to use computers, and it will really depend on what they're working on. There will be some tasks that they'll be using paper pencil, and there will be some tasks where they'll be using their laptops. Schoology is our system that we're going to be using, where kids can go there, similar to our Google Classroom, where they could go there and get their lessons and work on them. So we will have opportunities for students to use their laptops in school, just as there will be opportunities for them to do hands-on work, just as there'll be opportunities for them to do work with paper and pencil, okay? And how much would really depend upon the lesson that they're doing and what they're doing in class. That's up to the discretion of the teacher. Will students be allowed to eat nut products this year if dining in the classroom? So we are cognizant that some of our students have allergies. We do have a nut-free and we do have a dairy-free table in our cafeteria. We will ask, though, if you know, because I'm sure teachers will say, hey, we have some students in our class who are allergic to nuts. And we're just going to ask that if you know that there is a child in your child's class who has a nut allergy, if we could just be kind and caring. And, if we can have those nuts at home, that would be helpful. If your child absolutely has to have their nuts at school, then certainly we will need to take care of that child who has the allergy, and maybe we can, put, certainly depending upon what the allergy and the healthcare plan is for that child, we will abide by that. But, let's be kind and be cognizant that there are different needs in our school, and we want to take care of each other. Okay. We talked about the virtual instruction. Will there be plexiglass placed on students' desks for further protection? Right now, we don't have plexiglass placed on students' desks. We don't have that. We have plexiglass around some common areas where the teacher will be working with students, but we do not have individual plexiglass on desks. Now, let's see. Okay, so here's a question about the protocol of keeping children distanced during lunch. However, if a child wears a face shield during lunch, could they sit across from a friend who also wears a face shield? Lunch is such a valuable social time for our extroverted talkers who need to get some of that chatter out of their system before returning to the classroom. And parent, you're absolutely right. They do need that. And I'm thinking that you're saying if they can be, if you're meaning if they can be closer than what's designated in the cafeteria, they cannot. We are going to have to stick to the protocols we have in the cafeteria. The seats are already designated on, there's a red X on the seat that students cannot sit on. And if our students, for those students who were in school last year, they know the red X means you cannot sit there. So yes, they can definitely have a face shield, but they have to stay in the designated space in their assigned area. Every child will have an assigned seat. Will some instruction take place outside to give children mask breaks? If yes, how many classes and how much time could one child expect to get outside? I don't have a concrete answer for that because I'm sure our teachers will be taking students outside for outdoor learning. We don't have a specific space that they'll go to, but I'm sure some teachers will take kids out there. I don't know how often our teachers will take students outside, but I can imagine that it'll probably be, kids will get outside at least twice during the day, one for recess, and then maybe another break time that teachers will take students outside. Now, there's a question about fifth grade students missing some significant field trips last year. Could we increase their planned field trips? Well, I definitely understand your concern. And at this time, we're really focusing on returning strong and implementing the layer prevention strategies. And we want to keep our kids safe. So guidance around field trips is coming and it is evolving. So we will continue to monitor closely and we'll revisit this as the year gets underway. Okay. I've answered the question in reference to pencil and paper. Will students, is it true that waivers can be granted for students who do not wear masks? If so, what additional safety protocols will be in place in their classrooms to compensate for the lack of masks? Well, all students will be masked unless there is an exemption. We had one child last year who had a mask exemption. And I will say that child began to learn to tolerate his mask more and more throughout the day. So if there is a child, and I don't think we have any besides that one coming up this year, but if we have other children who have a mask exemption because of a medical issue, that child will be allowed to be without a mask, but all the other kids in the classroom will still wear their mask. How can medication be dropped off at the clinic? Please call ahead and make an appointment, or you can come by. Typically, Ms. Acuff is in the office by 8:30, 9 o'clock. So you can, but I would say call ahead just to make sure she's there. She's not with us every day of the week, but, and then some days are rotating because she does service another school also. Okay, for students who have waivers and do not wear masks, will they be able to participate in larger group activities like assemblies or other activities? Yes, because they are a student at Silverbrook And yes, because they do have to have access to everything. And yes, all the other kids will have their masks on. I think I talked about the peanut free and dairy free. Parent view accounts, quite frankly, parents, your parent view account should be available right now for you. Your emergency care information, we will be mailing an emergency care card. And if you need to make corrections on that card, we're asking that you make the corrections, and you can either bring it tomorrow at open house, or you can drop it off, or you can send it in your child's backpack. And then, I already answered the question about parents volunteering to come in and help. I will tell you that our staff is absolutely amazing, and anything that we have asked, we have been able to get done with the people that we've had in the building. And so we're fortunate with that. But I will say, if there ever comes a time that we are in like a real pinch, we will definitely reach out to our parents. We will, because we know that you care about your kids, and we want you to know that we care about your kids too, because they're our kids. Okay, they're our kids. They belong to us too. Are there any other lingering questions, something that has not been answered, or any other questions that you may have? Please feel free to access your mic and ask your question, or you can put it in the chat if you can.
Hi, I'm sorry. Didn't totally grasp the peanut free, and I'm a parent of an incoming kindergartner. Does that apply to lunch that they're going to eat in the shared space, that you would like for us to not give them peanut butter or things like that for their lunch, even things that they're eating in the cafeteria versus their snack that they might eat in a classroom?
Well, what I'm saying is, so are you saying that your child is peanut free?
No, my child is not. My child loves peanut butter sandwiches. So I just want to make sure if I need to do sun butter or something else, then I will do that. I just want to find out in advance.
That is very nice of you to make that accommodation for another child. That is very, very nice of you. And so, but if now, for example, in the cafeteria, the child who has the peanut allergy will be at a totally different table. So your child can bring peanut butter for lunch if they would like to have peanut butter for lunch, because there will be that's that separation. But in the classroom, of course, the area is much smaller. So that's the difference. And did I answer your question? Okay. Do we have any other questions?
Dr. Simpkins, I just would like to say thank you to you and the Silverbrook staff. As a mom of two boys who cannot wait to get back, we are just grateful for the intentionality, the thoughtfulness, the consideration, and also to that parent who just spoke. I have a son who's anaphylactic to peanuts, and just the fact that you would even consider sun butter is huge.
I know,
and
that is so
thank
nice.
you to the Silverbrook
Yes,
community.
yes.
Thank you to all the parents and the staff who are going, like, not even the extra mile, like the extra 50 miles to make sure our kids are safe. And we're just grateful, and thank you for this information, for this time tonight. I know it digs into your family schedule, but it just adds to the peace of mind to, transition our kids from home to you. So thank you so much for all that you and the staff do on behalf of our children. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Dr. Simpson.
Hi, how are you? Any other questions?
Hi there.
Hi, Dr. Simpkins. This is
Yes.
Tiffany Latham. I'm also a parent and look forward to coming back next week with my daughter. And a healthcare provider. So I echo everything that has been shared tonight, and really appreciate all that you all are doing at Silverbrook to keep our families safe. And I too have a child who has a peanut allergy. But my question is, will the school nurse be available tomorrow during any of the open house sessions in the event a parent wants to drop off, say, EpiPens or what have you?
I believe she will be there. She will be there tomorrow. And if she should be, yes, because I saw her today. She said, I'll see you tomorrow. So she should be there tomorrow.
Thank you so much.
You're quite welcome.
Delaware? No. Oh, yeah. It's Delaware. Delaware is called. Delaware, Delaware, yeah. My friend goes up
You're
there.
not asking a question. Can you turn off your mic, please? If you're not
And
vaccinated.
we had gone to a funeral. I don't know whose funeral it was.
Happy mom.
Because Neil was with us. No, because it was mom and.
Are there any other questions?
Hello, Dr. Simpkins. I have a question.
Yes.
You mentioned that approximately 90% of the staff were vaccinated for the approximate.
Across the county,
Oh,
not
across the
necessarily
county.
at Silverbrook, across the county.
Okay. Assuming there are Silverbrook employees that are unvaccinated or unable to be vaccinated, how, and knowing that you can't tell us which ones, will they be wearing N95 masks, or what accommodations will be made to try and keep children and others as safe as possible?
Well, okay, so thank you for that question. And because I don't know who has been vaccinated and not vaccinated, I really can't tell you. I can ask that, if people desire to wear the N95 mask, but as far as I can tell you, everyone just has to wear a mask. And there has been no designation as to those who are not vaccinated, if they need to wear N95 or not. FCPS has not said they have to wear any specific mask, but they do have to wear a mask.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're quite welcome.
Hello,
Any other-
Dr. Simpkins. Hi, yes, I have a question. You mentioned a little bit about the COVID cases, but at what point will a classroom, at what number of COVID cases will a class be designated to virtual? Is it one?
Well, I don't think it would be one, but I really can't answer that question because I really don't have a number. Numbers were not given to us when this was talked, when we, had the discussion, but I'm going to assume that it really does have to be a significant breakout, meaning that, for example, if we had one child that comes up who was tested COVID positive, and maybe 2 days later, another child, and then maybe 2 days later, and then maybe we're seeing a pattern that's happening in the classroom. At that point, the health department would say that we would have to close a classroom. But unfortunately, I don't have a specific number on like how many kids would have to test positive in order for the class to be shut down. I don't know that answer.
I also have a question about band. How will band be this year with COVID? Because my daughter was virtual last year.
Band will continue to go on, and the students will wear masks during band. And then they have oh gosh, what's the word? They have some kind of a shield or something that they put on their on their band instrument, like as the noise comes out, I guess to hold the saliva and things like that in. So they do have some coverings for the instruments as children play. And then the children will also wear their mask. They will make a little slit in their mask so that they can put their, like if they're using a horn or something like that, they can put in their mouths. So that it will continue.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you, Dr. Simpkins.
You're quite welcome. Any other questions or clarifications that need to be made at this time?
Hello, this is Kiana Downey. I am, my son is going into 3rd grade. So I was just hearing your commentary on if one child is COVID positive in the room, you won't shut the class down necessarily, but I assume you're still going to tell the class so if we want to opt out of our kid coming because there's a COVID positive kid, will there be accommodations made for us to have our kid be virtual for that 10 days as well to mitigate the risk of them catching the COVID from the kid that had it?
That is a great question. And yes, you will be notified as contact tracing is going on. And then the shutdown will really be coming from the health department. And should we need to shut down the whole classroom, everyone will go to virtual learning.
Right, but if I, for example, I'm pregnant and I'm not vaccinated because I'm pregnant. So if you said that someone in my younger student is another school, they shut down they gave us the option of going virtual because a kid in his class was COVID positive. So we don't have that option here, right? We just have to be absent from school if we find out someone in our class has COVID positive.
Well, I can get some clarification on that, but when you're saying virtual, are you meaning like concurrent? So if you're
Not necessarily, just that they won't be
So-
counted absent if I decide to pull them out because someone in his class has COVID.
Okay, well, you know what? Let me write this down and then I can get back with you because that is a great question. And I don't think, I've never heard that question before.
Okay. And then I
Right.
had one more question that I threw in the chat, but I don't know if anyone saw. My son also has braces recently. So is there some process or policy for how he can brush his teeth after meals, considering all the COVID restrictions and all of that? Does he go to the nurse? Like, how does he go about that with the mask and all that?
Well, I would say that either he can come down to the health room and he can brush his teeth there, and that way, you know, it's private. I don't know, Mr. Thomason, do third grades have bathrooms in their classrooms? Do you know?
I believe so, yes. Yes.
Third grade? Or he can use the bathroom in his classroom. Yeah, because if there's a bathroom in the classroom, he can opt to use that. Or if he would feel more comfortable just coming down to the health room, he could do that too.
I just wanted to make sure, because we're kind of new to Silverbrook, so I just wanted to make sure there was some way for him to do that. So thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. You're quite welcome. Any other questions or clarifications, families?
Sorry, this is right. I have one more question on the contact tracing and notification if someone is COVID positive in the class. If you're wearing masks all day, it says they're not. If they're wearing masks, then they're not considered a close contact. So will you be notified if there's a COVID case in the class, even if your child is not considered a contact, but they just are in the class with the COVID positive student?
Yes, we will notify you if there's if a child tests positive. Yes, and then the health department, I mean, because all of the letters will come from the health department anyway. And then the health department would do the contact tracing. If they find that your kid was close to, you know, the infected kid for a long period of time, then they would contact you. And that's where the health nurse was saying, hey, if we call you, please answer the phone, you know. So yes, you will definitely, the whole class will definitely be notified that there's a positive case in the class.
Thank you.
Any other questions or clarifications? Is that Narayan?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Simpkins. My son is going to be coming very first time in the first grade because last year everything was virtual, so we're very, very excited. But, and I also joined a little bit late, so I may have missed some, but the question about testing. So how would we, I mean, what's the testing protocol? Like how is there a testing protocol in the school when child shows symptoms, or what is the testing protocol? So when they get tested, and how would we find out that who has COVID? Okay, now we don't test the kids in school, but what will happen is, for example, if your child comes to school and if your child seems ill, that we will send their child to the health room. And then the health aide will assess and find out, hey, you know what, does this appear to be COVID-like symptoms or not? But that's where, like our public health nurse was saying, they will look at your child's file to see if your child has any other underlying conditions or anything, you know, anything else going on with them, so that might help them to determine if this is something normal that happens with your kid, or if this is something that's new that happens with your kid. So they will give you a call, ask you some questions. If by chance, you know, as they're doing their investigation, they think or have a suspicion that your child has some COVID-like symptoms, that child will be taken to the care room, and that will be a totally different room, and that child will stay there until you pick up. And then we just ask that you pick up within an hour. Did I answer your question, or is there any other clarification? So that way, meaning that the testing is not going to happen in the school nurse's office, right? So you take your child and then go and get tested. Is that what it is?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Just thank you for clarifying.
You're quite welcome. Any other questions or clarifications, families?
Yes, hi. I do have a question about the all gender sign. Does that mean that like boy and girls will be going into the same restroom at the same time?
No, no, no. This is a single use bathroom. So
Oh,
only
single
those
use
are-
bathroom. Okay,
Yeah.
got it. It just can be used by either or, but like just the girl at the same time and just the boy. Like
Yes.
they're
only
not
one
gonna
person-
mix. Got it. And I have one more question about outdoor dining. What if like the weather is not permitting for that, like raining or I don't know, super cold outside? Like what's we gonna do about that? And in the winter time specifically, will the kids have time and ability to, I don't know, put some coats on before they go outside?
Okay. So in the winter time, we probably will not likely be having outdoor lunch. If it rains, which I hope it doesn't, but if it rains, then children will have their lunch in the cafeteria. Now, just envision that every child has a assigned seat in the cafeteria. When it's your child's class to eat outside, those seats remain empty in the cafeteria. So no one is sitting there during that lunch period. So if your child has lunch between 10:50 and 11:20 and their class is outside, that seat is still empty 10:50 to 11:20.
Yes, understood. Thank you so much.
You're quite welcome. Any other questions?
Hi, I have a question about water fountains.
Mhm.
Will the students have access to water fountains? I plan on sending my son with a stainless steel water bottle, but will he be able to fill it if he needs to? Because he's a big water drinker, and especially with the mask, water is very
Yes.
important. So just wanted
Yes.
to know if
He will be able to drink, he will be able to fill his water bottle using the water filling station. We're not using the spouts, the fountain spouts, but we do have our water bottle filling station that he can stick his water bottle underneath it and then the water will fill up. The bottle will fill up that way.
great, thank you. And I have another question about recess. How long will recess be? Is recess going to be a little bit longer to give kids more time to be outside and fresh air?
Mhm. Typically recess is about 30 minutes a day. So, and usually it's a whole 30-minute block. Some teachers might break it up into two 15-minute blocks, but usually it's just that one 30-minute block. And then, sometimes at the end of the day, teachers might take kids out, depending upon the weather, of course.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome. Any other questions or clarifications?
Dr. Simpkins, I have one other question. Will there be any opportunity for mass breaks? I heard from friends that last year they had mass breaks.
Yes, and sometimes teachers will take their kids outside for a walk and they may walk around the school or outside just to have a mass break. So, and that will, and I do believe teachers will read the room and see when that break should happen, and they'll be able to do that.
And if they're not vaccinated, you said they still have to wear a mask outside, right?
Outside, yeah.
So how would they have a break if they're 8?
Well, again, none of our kids are vaccinated. And so if they're not vaccinated, they will have to wear their masks outside. And you know what? And I will tell you that our kids did pretty well last year with their masks. And so this is another thing I also want to mention, to pack additional masks for your kids so that they can have a fresh mask throughout the day. Because if they're outside playing, it gets, wet and sweaty and things like that. But I will also check on the fact that if our kids are spaced, because even last year, the kids, if they were spaced like 6 feet away from each other, they could be maskless. Now, it might be different now because this variant is so transient right now. So I want to make sure that I'm giving you the accurate information, but as of what we know from last week, if they're unvaccinated, they do need to wear their mask.
Okay, so as of right now, there won't be any mask breaks.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying that, when they go outside now, because when they go out for lunch, and if it's their outdoor time, they're going to be without a mask. But I'm also certain that teachers will probably take the kids out and they can take their mask off for a few minutes to get a little bit of fresh air.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I mean, we are going to be as careful as we can. And we also know we're dealing with children, you know, and they have different needs. And so we will be, cognizant of that. But if there's anything different, I will definitely let you know.
Dr. Simpkins, can you describe the seating arrangements in the classrooms?
Yes, the children can seat face to face in the classroom, and they can, and in some rooms we have, depending upon the amount of children, we can have as many as 20 to 25 kids in a class. Some kids will be at individual desks. Some kids will be at a joint desk. And then I know in our upper grades, teachers were really excited about, being able to have their kids sitting face to face so that they can have conversations with each other. So that's pretty much what it looks like. Mr. Thomason, did you see any other methods or ways kids are sitting in the classrooms?
Well, we do have tables. We've got brand new furniture. And so a lot of those are tables. We've actually measured the seating back in the spring when we were coming from 2 to 4 days. And it is about close to 3 feet between, from the person sitting next to you, and across from you, it's at least 3 feet. And again, the students are wearing their masks. One thing I can add is that we're doing everything we can to make our group static. So if you're working with, the teacher's working with a small group, then that is the group that they will be, the same students will be working with, at least for the first few months. There'll be a few changes in that area in case something happens within the classroom. It'll be easier for contact tracing. So we're trying to keep those small groups static, and with tables. In the spring we had some more individual seats, but we still are able to have enough space, even using the tables that we have right now.
Thank you. Just a follow-up question to that. With respect to recess, I know in the past the teachers have sometimes used reduction in recess minutes as punishment or incentive or something along those lines. Is there guidance this school year for the teachers, to refrain from doing that and reducing recess time with respect to everybody having to wear masks all day?
Wow, Ms. Tron, I don't know. Well, now I will tell you, it's been a while since I've known a teacher to use recess as, taking minutes away from recess. And that's not something that I agree with. And as a matter of fact, that's not the direction of the county. No one should be taking recess time away from students for any reason. Are you saying this happened recently?
Yeah, over the last couple of years, there have been a couple of instances where, some minutes and things like that, but, nothing too serious. I just wanted to make sure that this year, with respect to everybody having to wear masks all day and the recess time being such a critical time to, get outside, and that we're not utilizing that as something to reduce the time.
Please know that will not be happening at Silverbrook. And Mr. Thomason, please remind me to mention that to teachers when we do our nuts and bolts tomorrow. Yeah.
Yes.
So much.
That does not go along with my philosophy. Okay. Any other questions or clarifications?
Hi, Dr. Simpkins, just a follow-up question on the masks and wearing outside. Earlier in the presentation, it looked like the slide said it was recommended, and I thought that was Fairfax County policy, that it's required indoors, but outdoors is not required if they're in PE or in other activities. So are you saying that Silverbrook's policy is that it is required outdoors on school grounds?
Oh, no, I'm not having a Silverbrook policy. My policy is going to be whatever the county says. And I will, so Mr. Thomason, wait a minute, can we go back to that slide? So Mr. Adams, but you're talking about like the recess, the PE, things like that, Mr. Adams, right?
Yes, outdoors on school grounds, not vaccinated, masks are either recommended or required, and I was trying to clarify which.
All right, I will give clarification on that and I will send that out in the news you choose tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. Any other questions or clarifications?
Will the deck that you shared be made available to us?
I'm sorry, say again?
The deck that you presented today, will
Yeah.
it be made available?
Yes.
Awesome.
Mhm. Okay. Any other questions or clarifications? Okay, so what I know is I'm going to get clarification around the PE recess mask policy for outdoors. And I'm also going to follow up on if a child, if there is a COVID case in a classroom, can parents voluntarily take their child out without them being, I guess, marked absent? Is that what you were meaning, Ms. Downey?
I'm so sorry, I missed what you just said.
Are you saying, because I wanted to follow up on your question. Your question was, if there is a positive COVID case, if you decide to leave your child home, will your child be marked absent?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, got it. Okay, if there is nothing else, families, we thoroughly enjoyed time with you tonight. We certainly hope that this was helpful for you. We're looking forward to seeing the kids on Monday. As a matter of fact, we're gonna look forward to seeing them tomorrow because it's open house. Kindergarten open house starts at 10:30 to 11:30. We have a designated time for special populations from 1:30 to 2, and then everyone else from 2 to 3. Okay. So we look forward to seeing you all then. Have a great evening. Thank you for coming. We appreciate your support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I guess